Hi, welcome back. This is the first in a video series I'm going to do on travel. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I get to travel around a lot for my job, and unlike the normal sort of tourist videos that you see on YouTube, I get a bit of a backdoor into places that probably tourists aren't normally going, and also I get a lowdown from locals that I meet there. They give me a kind of tour around and tell me exactly what's what in these places. So it's not a kind of glitzy, sales pitch on these places. It's a real talk on how I found them, the experiences that I had there. And the first one I want to do is Dubai. Not a place I would normally have gone as a tourist. I'm not a kind of Instagram model, floating around on the front of a yacht sunbathing kind of person. But I had to go there for work. And of course I was interested to see the place. I had a lot of preconceptions about Dubai, and I wasn't sure what to expect, so I was keen to see what it was all about. I flew over there and I had a business class flight, and I've got to say, price wise it was actually very reasonable. The flights to Dubai are not that expensive. They are actually a lot cheaper than many other places I've flown to. The airlines almost subsidise the price of these flights, because they really want tourism in Dubai. And that's the first thing to note about this place, is Dubai is run more like a business. Years ago, they realised that oil was not going to be the, golden goose that paid for everything in the region, and they had to diversify, and they decided that they would diversify by becoming a little more westernised, and then attracting as much tourism as possible and attracting as much big business to stay there as possible. And they had to westernize themselves a little bit to do that, because obviously it's an Arabic country. They are traditionally a lot more conservative, and that's why there's some kind of conflict sometimes between Dubai and the UAE in general with other Arabic countries, because those other Arabic countries probably still have some quite deep conservative values, and they see Dubai as maybe the least conservative of all. For some that might be slightly offensive. For us in the West it's great because we can go there, we don't have to be too concerned about what we wear and all the normal things that you would be worried about. You don't have to cover your hair up if you're a female, for example. There are plenty of females in Dubai that do. That's their own personal choice, but no one's going to jump out of a side street and kind of grab you if you don't. So it's a very westernized culture. And I was actually surprised, on the flight over there, I was looking at the infotainment, and they had all these commercials about Dubai, and I was surprised how liberal it was. There was women prancing around in bikinis and all kinds of extravagant stuff going on, and I was very surprised about that. So when I got there, I went straight to the hotel. And first thing to note, the hotel that I stayed in wasn't massively expensive. I think that's the first misconception that I had about Dubai, and probably a lot of other people do, that it's this hugely expensive place. Now, don't get me wrong, it's one of the most extravagant places on earth. Everything about it, there's amazing buildings, the amount of money that's been spent there is absolutely mind-blowing. But because they're running it like a business, they're making sure that tourists with all kinds of financial backgrounds are able to go over there and enjoy a stay. So even if you've only got, say, £50–60 a night to spend, you can find somewhere to stay in Dubai that will cater for you. Yes, it's not going to be the lap of luxury at that price, but equally, if you've got £10,000 a night to spend, you can also stay in a hotel like I'm sure the Beckhams and people like that do, and they really are experiencing, the crazy luxurious stuff that you might have seen on TV. I stayed in a place that was about £150 a night, which if you stay in London or Paris for £150 a night, you are not in a very nice hotel. Generally, if you stayed in one of those places, it would be pretty dirty. There would be no luxurious stuff going on at all. The breakfast that you got would be incredibly basic. This hotel I stayed at in Dubai was really nice, very luxurious, very large room, beautifully clean. The staff really know how to look after you. They are service orientated to a T. they've really embraced the whole tourist trade, and I couldn't have been more welcomed. You know, they were fantastic, very professional. They all were able to speak great English, so I didn't have any problems with that. Obviously, you know, I always say salam alaikum, and try and make an effort, whichever country I go to say a few words in the language, and show some cultural appreciation. But very quickly, you know, they understand that you're not going to be fluent in Arabic, and they would engage in English, and all of them that I spoke to had excellent English. You know, they put me to shame, frankly. Got up to the room. The room was absolutely beautiful, like I said, spotlessly clean, really nice, great view. And the buffet and the food, etc., you get a buffet breakfast. That was phenomenal. You know, they had different portions of sort of serving things from all around the world, so you could go and get something that was Oriental cuisine, or you could go and get something that was Italian cuisine, you know, all these different things. Really, really nice food. And again, that was part of the deal. And even if you went to the hotel and had like an evening meal, again, yes, there were options to be very expensive, you know, in a restaurant there, but you could also eat very reasonably as well. When it was decided that they were going to go for this sort of tourism and business aspect, they built Dubai specifically for that, and they built it very methodically. So one of the things tourists might not realise, and I was shown on a drive round by my friend there, was that the whole place is split up into regions, and these regions are quite a distance from each other. So you have got your sort of main tourist area, but then you've got regions of Dubai that you may not even see, which are like the healthcare district, for example. So all the hospitals and healthcare facilities, whether that be for aesthetics or actual healthcare, are all in one area. And all the people that work in those places tend to all live in that area, because they've strategically built housing around all these places of work. And then they've also built infrastructure there. So if you live in that region, you really don't need to do anything outside of it, because you've got your parks, you've got your recreation, you've got your cinemas, you know, everything families could want. It's very family orientated. So everything is definitely laid out for a sort of traditional family to have a really nice time. And why would you need to go anywhere else? So it's kind of like a segregation, if you like, but it's not an enforced segregation. It's like a convenience segregation that people just tend to adhere to because it's the easiest option. You have another district that's like an IT district, and that would be all the businesses that are, you know, big IT businesses have their offices there. All the workers live in and around those offices. They've got their own cafes, their own parks, everything there for them. So they don't really need to go anywhere else either. And this is split up. There's loads and loads of these regions. So you've even got like the sort of basic manual working area, where the quality of life is a little bit lower because, of course, the staff there are earning less. So if you stayed in a hotel in that area, for example, it would be a lot cheaper, but the level of luxury would be a lot lower. It would be very basic. Still absolutely fine, you know, it's not dodgy or anything like that, but it isn't what you kind of dream of when you think of a holiday in Dubai. And this is kind of where I was saying Dubai can cater for any kind of price point. You know, you can fly there pretty cheap, and you can choose to stay as cheaply or as expensively as you want. And this is kind of the myth where some of the influencers take advantage, because when you see a lot of these influencers, you imagine that they're making huge amounts of money, right? They're in Dubai, they're laying on some boat somewhere, looking beautiful, and you think, wow, those people are absolutely coining it in. There's a lot of jealous comments I see, you know, why is this girl earning so much money? The fact of the matter is she probably flew there for like £400 or £500 for a return flight. She probably is staying in a middle of the road hotel that probably someone else is financing. And then things like renting a boat there, you know, if you wanted to rent a really flashy looking boat, it would only be, you know, £1,000 or so a day, which I know sounds expensive, but when you imagine that these creators and influencers, there might be 6 or 7 of them that all choose to stay in a a big house and rent that house. So they split the money between them. If you split $1,000 or £1,000 between 6 or 7 people, it's then quite affordable. And then you get these girls that they bring over there, lay them out on this boat. It looks like the girl is, living this hugely luxurious lifestyle. In fact, it's very, very affordable. So don't be fooled by the influencers, guys. They are not incredibly wealthy. Most of them are just like you and me. They've got pretty much the same amount of money, and they're just taking advantage of the fact that Dubai gives a very, very good deal for the level of luxury you can get. Your bang for buck is probably the best in all the world. Now, is it safe in Dubai? I was actually blown away. There's literally no crime, especially in the tourist areas, because they see tourism as such a huge economical issue that they really want to, grow it and make sure that no one has a bad time. The laws and regulations surrounding how tourists end up being treated are very strict. So if you run a business in Dubai and you were conning tourists, you would be in a huge amount of trouble. Your business would probably disappear overnight if the people in charge found out that was going on. So frankly, it doesn't happen, because if you run a successful business in Dubai, if you're a local running a business, you're probably doing very well. You're probably making plenty of money. The quality of life that people get working in Dubai is generally quite high if they're running businesses, and it just wouldn't be worth their while ripping people off. If you've got everything you need, you live in a beautiful area, you've got access to, goods, luxurious goods that you want to buy, your family are happy, why would you start scamming tourists for small amounts of money when that could jeopardize everything that you're working for? So people just don't tend to do that. And it's very, very unusual if you come from the UK and you're kind of very wary and suspicious. You get out of an airport and you think, is the taxi driver there trying to scam me? And you get to the hotel and you're wondering, have they got a spare key and they're going to let themselves in and rob me while I'm out? All those things are likely in the UK. In Dubai, massively unlikely. I was speaking to all the guys that are locals out there that I was doing business with, and they said, look, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. They were sure that there must be crime in some areas at some level, but it's certainly not obvious, and they haven't ever come across any of that themselves. Now, given that it's so luxurious, and everywhere you walk out there, especially the tourist areas, is beautifully clean, manicured, well kept, and there's like zero crime. You can walk around any time of the day or night. You're never going to get scammed. It feels really strange. It feels kind of like Stepford Wives, almost like you're living in a kind of alternate reality, because most of us come from countries where you're naturally suspicious and some unusual or bad things happen around you. It wouldn't be unusual if I walked through a street in London to see some drug deals going on in the corner, and to see maybe some arguments occurring, a fight or something. That would be quite standard, and you should always be kind of on your guard. In Dubai, that isn't an issue. It doesn't happen. Of course, there are drugs, etc., but very, very unusual. Certainly not people walking around the streets advertising that fact, because the penalties there would be massively harsh. So if any of that goes on, it's very much undercover. Like I say, it felt kind of plastic in a way, and that's probably because of my upbringing, that I've had quite, lived in some rough places, etc. So it just felt so strange to me, almost surreal. And one of the guys that lived there made a great point, because he's lived in other places as well. And he said he was actually worried about his kids, because they've grown up in Dubai and all they've known is utter safety, luxurious living. Anything that they wanted was sort of available to them. Family activities are incredibly cheap. You can go out pretty much and do whatever you like. The quality of life is high. And he's concerned that as they get older, if they become, business people and have to travel around the world, that they would actually be ill-equipped to travel to certain places and deal with those, because they almost are naive to the possibilities that bad things can happen. And I found that a really interesting point, you know, that it's nice to be there and nice to live there, but what happens when those people have to travel to a different area that's not as well kept and well manicured? How are they going to deal with that? There's plenty of alcohol in Dubai. You know, that was one thing I was unsure of. I'm not particularly a drinker. I very rarely drink, maybe a couple of drinks every year, something like that. But I was unsure if that was a thing there because it's an Arabic country. And actually, there's plenty of alcohol available in Dubai. You know, it was all over the place. And what you do notice is that no one is getting visibly drunk because, again, the regulations and rules are quite strict. So if you're from Europe or the UK and you're used to going and getting absolutely smashed, staggering out of a place and sort of falling over and being sick everywhere or starting a fight, Dubai probably isn't the place for you to go, because while it is perfectly acceptable to go and have a few drinks and enjoy yourself with your friends, if you were going to go out there and do that and start some problems, you would have really big issues. So I would strongly advise that people do not do that. That actually sits great with me because I don't want to be in a place where people are staggering all around and fighting with each other. So I quite enjoyed the fact that it was a very sedate environment and people were having like a sensible drink but not going crazy. Now, one of the biggest things that people like to do in all the Arabic countries, but especially in Dubai, is go to the mall. And that's probably, again, something that we're not particularly that used to in the UK. We do have malls and people go to them, but it tends to be part of a shopping trip. You know, you might visit a couple of shops in a mall and then go and walk around the streets and see a few other shops. In Dubai, the weather is so hot, and the same for the other Arabic countries I've been to. It is ridiculously hot. You know, no one wants to be wandering around the streets. You generally get a cab, air-conditioned vehicle to the place that you're going, and then you go straight into the place and enjoy the air conditioning in there as well, because we're talking like 40 or 50 degrees C, and even in the winter time it's pretty hot. It's like 30-35 degrees C, which for us is like a baking hot summer's day in the UK. So no one's really walking around. There are very few shops that are just scattered along the road. There are a few, but generally they're quite specialist shops and more on the sort of commercial side of things. But if you want to go and do actual shopping as a tourist, you go to a big mall. The malls there are amazing. They are huge. You could literally spend a whole day walking around the mall. They've generally got pretty cool stuff to look at. They've got like sculptures, fountains. Sometimes they have things going on, music or whatever, some kind of act, you know, something that you can stop and enjoy. The mall I went to had like a sea life centre in it, so you could go and pay and look at all these fish and whatever. And it's a huge deal for the locals. You know, all the local people really enjoy going to the mall. It's the place most of them go in the evenings. They meet up there. They might just sit and have a coffee, have a chat. It's a very, very friendly, family orientated atmosphere. The shops there are unbelievable. They're just more shops than you've ever seen in your life. Every big brand that you can ever imagine. And if you're into fashion, then I highly recommend going to Dubai and visiting the big malls there, because every fashion retailer that you could possibly imagine is in this mall. If you don't want to spend much money, there's plenty of shops where you can just buy some tourist stuff and have a cup of coffee and whatever and just enjoy the atmosphere. If you do want to spend a lot of money, man, you can spend a lot of money, because, you know, you could walk out with a Rolex, you could walk out with Cartier bags, whatever, you know, whatever you can think of, you could probably find in this mall. I really like going to the malls because I'm really into oud. It's the perfume or aftershave that's really popular in Arabic countries. I absolutely love it. You can get it in loads of different sort of scents. And one of the unusual things there is that we're so used to in Europe and the UK that you go into a perfume shop and that there would be a strict like men's line of perfume or aftershave, and then there would be the female variant, and they would be completely separated. In most of the oud shops, you actually find that it's all unisex. You know, that you'll be asking for scents to be recommended, and you'll say, you know, I'm looking for something for my wife as well, and they'll say, well, that is also for your wife. Everything tends to be unisex. Oud's a really fascinating thing because that is incredibly important in Arabic culture, that actually going out and having, you know, the scent of really high quality oud perfume fragrance is very important to the Arabic people, and to some degree I think it plays a part in their sort of hierarchical structure, that if you know, couldn't afford a decent quality oud and you were going out and not smelling great, then people would kind of make a judgment about you maybe. And if you had a really, really good scent on you, the people would kind of appreciate that and treat you in a certain manner. So if you're from the UK or Europe and you're going out there, a bit of a tip is buy a high quality scent, an oud scent, get some advice from one of the pros in the shops, and make sure you wear that, because they will appreciate that you're joining in the culture. It's actually become my favourite perfume to wear, aftershave, whatever you want to call it, but I now wear that all the time. I really, really like it. If you want to be really traditional, it's actually a type of wood that's become diseased and broken down and released a resin from a very, very specific tree. That's why it's quite expensive and quite rare. And this stuff is then bought in and either burnt as a kind of incense, and if you smell the wood, there's no smell to it to begin with, but once you burn it, it gives off this really nice strong smell. It's pretty standard for Arabic people that are into oud to actually stand over some burning incense, and that will all the smoke will kind of waft all through their clothing after they've gotten out of a bath. Often the bath they've had will have like an oud oil in it, and then they will finish up with the spray of the stuff as well. They even have sprays that they use around the house to kind of make the room smell of oud. So literally everything smells of oud, and they really, really enjoy the scent. The other thing that I like over there, if I'm going to the mall, is I always try and buy some really good dates, because those guys really know their dates. And if you are like me and you enjoy eating some dates, try them. They are the juiciest and nicest dates I've ever had. They also have something called halwa, which is like a paste that's made out of dates, and it's kind of like their version of a sweetie, I guess, you know, a candy. And it's like a sugary date mixture with generally some nuts mixed into it as well, like walnuts or something like that, sometimes pistachio. And that is really, really good as well. So I normally try and bring as many dates and as much halwa back as I possibly can, and as well as a couple of packages of oud perfume for myself and a couple of family members. And I don't have anything dark or mysterious to report about Dubai. You know, if you're watching this, I know in some of my security videos I often talk about the darker side of things, the unpleasantness, and something I found that was, you know, not very wholesome. Unfortunately, for this video, there was nothing about Dubai that I could find like that. Everything I found was really, really pleasant. There wasn't a bad thing that I found, other than it seemed pretty surreal to me. You know, the experience was unusual just because of my background, and it was almost too nice, if that's possible. I thoroughly recommend people go there. If you're someone like me that thought, nah, it's not really my cup of tea, I really recommend you go and check it out just for the experience. You know, it's an amazing thing to see. The level of construction out there, the money that's been spent on the building work, and going on to those islands. I mean, I was on one of the islands that's actually a man-made island, and I said, oh, when are we going on and off the island? And they were like, you're already on it, because it's so massive. You know, you're driving down this huge wide road and you can't even conceive that you're actually on a man-made island at that point. It's beautiful. I don't care who you are, you'll definitely enjoy the level of luxury you get for your money. You know, if you're thinking of going for a holiday somewhere, I would strongly recommend you check that place out, because whatever you're going to spend on your holiday, it will probably give you more bang for your buck if you go to Dubai, just for the fact that you get so much luxury for your money. You don't have to, you know, be an influencer out there. You don't have to kind of do all the tacky laying on the front of a boat and sunbathing or whatever. There's plenty of things to see. I got taken around some of the old buildings and some of the old like bazaars and marketplaces and stuff, which if you go there really early in the morning before it gets super hot, that's definitely worth a look. And outside of Dubai, there also is some amazing things to do. If you're into extreme sports, you can go sand dune racing, all kinds of extreme sports going on, pretty much anything, skydiving, crazy stuff like that. And it's all reasonably priced if you were to weigh it against, you know, doing the same activity in another part of the world. Again, because they're almost subsidizing this stuff to get people coming back there. They want you to have a great experience and they want you to come back again and again and again. And it worked on me. You know, I'm, like I said, not someone who would normally want to go there, but I really enjoyed it and I look forward to going again. I probably won't go back as a tourist because I'm going there again as a business trip, but I might extend that by a few days just because I had such a good time there. Guys, I hope that's been of some use to you. You know, it means a lot to me to put truthful videos out there, so I'm sorry there was nothing incredibly exciting. Hopefully this is useful for people that are thinking of going to Dubai and want a kind of real deal on the place rather than the schmaltzy marketing hype that you normally see. Take care, see you soon, catch you later.